Hey guys, how's it going? So the last few days or so, I've not really felt like speedrunning and like posting speedrunning stuff. So I've been playing some demos of some games that are about to come out or like have just come out. So I'm just gonna make a video that reviews like eight games. I'm just gonna review them based on like how they look, how the game felt. My thoughts about like how the game is gonna be on launch, basically after playing those demos, and yeah, it's gonna be just like 8 games. Probably guess what a couple of them are from the thumbnail, and yeah, let's get into it. First up is Olija. This game has actually already released. It came out a year ago or so in January 2021, and it got good reviews on Steam with a 91% on there, and just under 500 reviews and a 77 on Metacritic. For the purpose of the video, I'll still only be reviewing the demo, and I'd say based on the demo that the game is alright, not my favorite of the bunch, and I think that the 8-bit art style is unfortunately kind of does a disservice to the game, since it made some of the things unclear, like where to go next in a few places. There's a few places at the beginning, like at this, I think it's in like one of the starting rooms, that uses a background element to show ladders, and it kind of didn't make sense at the beginning where they were, like what you're supposed to do in that room. There's a narrator at the beginning from the cutscene at the beginning that started talking every once in a while, and that guy gave some exposition, and there were subtitles to it so you could understand it because it's made up language, and it built some of the lore of the world and around your character, who's named Faraday, and I thought that was pretty interesting. The enemies in the atmosphere were pretty interesting. They're based on the way it made you feel like you were in a dark, dank cave with a cave system filled with the hostile tribes of enemies. And when it came to the music, it really picked up in the later sections of the demo, with rooms with a bunch of enemies that you could hack through and the boss fight at the end of the demo. The sound design I would say was pretty good, since it added to the atmosphere of the game. Personally, I'd give the game a 3 out of 5 aesthetically. I think the minimal 8-bit art style detracted a bit from the experience. Gameplay and game feel wise, I thought it felt pretty good. The combat revolves around using this lightning harpoon as an attack, as well as a secondary weapon which you can swap on the fly. The options for the secondary weapon in the demo were a sword and an automatic crossbow, which was quite fun to use alongside the grappling and hacking with the harpoon. From the menu, it looks like there's probably a couple more secondary weapons you find in the full game. You had to grapple onto an enemy or a specified point. You couldn't really do too many like mid-air grapple shenanigans to gain lots of momentum outside of those points and enemies. The game seemed to be a hack and slash game, and you can explore little nooks and crannies of like the rooms you're in, and you can probably find some stuff in there. Not quite a Metroidvania, probably more linear than that, but it will probably reward you a little bit for searching for little hidey holes. The game wasn't too hard. The combat helped with the experience overall, and like helped push some of like the aesthetics you'd see in the game. Overall, I'd give the gameplay a 4 out of 5. I'd say it's an alright game. I could see myself playing the whole game and having fun. Doesn't seem like it's too long of a game as well. Based on the Steam reviews and everything, I'd say it's a 3.5 out of 5. Game is currently $15 US, and if you like the concept of the game and the gameplay being shown, there's a pinned comment with the Steam store page link. Astronite. Up next is Astronite, a black and white 2D pixel platformer Metroidvania. There are some filters you can put on the game. I chose to put on the CRT1 filter if you are wondering. In this game, you play as a little astronaut exploring a planet after crash landing on it. I really enjoyed the little beeps and boops from the player character, and I think the music and the audio in the game were beneficial to the game and the experience. This game did a good job of being clear in what everything was with its limited palette of colors, and I think that helped with the gameplay as well. Astronite definitely wears its Metroidvania influences on its sleeves with the audio and visuals, and I'd say I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5 little beep boopin' astronauts aesthetically. Gameplay wise, it was alright, not the strongest. I think taking away all the abilities it shows you at the beginning to have you refine all the pieces was an interesting choice in the demo. I understand the game is trying to be like Metroid, where you go searching for upgrades and abilities in your suit and all, but I personally probably would have rather it be that the game starts you with just your blaster instead of having to traverse areas and get hit by projectiles from enemies to then get the blaster afterwards. I think a way to remedy that might be to show that the astronauts' jetpack, dash, and everything weren't working from the beginning, and maybe your blaster is a bit damaged instead of just taking away all your items in an unavoidable room, and then you lose the blaster as well. The movement felt fine. It felt much better at the beginning when you had all your movement abilities. I do think this is a fun demo, and I enjoyed the movement and the feel of this game. Overall, I give the gameplay a 3.5 out of 5 as well. This was a pretty short demo. I finished it in about 18 minutes, including the intro cutscene, as opposed to the 27 minutes with Olija. Probably could have been even shorter if I wasn't so tired when I played it, since I did die a few times to some silly things. Astronite is set to come out at the end of this year. If you want to wishlist it or play the demo, there is a link to the Steam store page in the pinned comment. Overall, I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. GigaSword is an action puzzle Metroidvania where you drag around a giant sword that is too heavy to carry. In some scenarios, you have to drop the sword in order to progress forward and grab items, operate machinery, and grab ledges. However, you can no longer attack since you don't have a weapon. Aesthetics wise, this had some great pixel art and the music had a retro feel to it that reminded me of some older games. I personally enjoyed the look of this game a lot, 4 out of 5 for aesthetics. Gameplay wise, I was not super into the movement in the game to start off with. The fact that you could have much better movement without the sword sort of made me not like the game at first, since I personally value game feel and movement above most things. However, I think the game has grown on me since playing the demo. I think this game benefits a lot from it not being solely action based because of the puzzle aspects in that game. You can tell a lot of time was put into some of the puzzles with the way the sword interacts with the environment. I don't think the combat was too developed from playing the demo, and I think a lot of the hitboxes were very generous for the sword, including in the puzzles and in the combat. All the enemies can be stood inside of while they're not attacking, so you can do things like stand inside the boss of the demo while in the corner of their arena, roll to avoid an attack, and then wail on them. There's a lot of additional things that aren't being shown in the demo with regards to weapon upgrades, so maybe there are some more mechanics besides the Zelda reference full health blade beam the player can get as an upgrade in the demo. Gameplay wise, this is probably a 3.5 out of 5 for me. Overall, I think this solo dev is doing a great job. It takes a lot of work to put together a game, and I think this demo shows a lot of the great stuff indie game developers can do. This game is on my wishlist, and I'm excited to see the full release. GigaSword is slated to release sometime in 2023. Overall, 4 heaps of raw iron out of 5. If you're a sucker for roguelike card games akin to Slay the Spire, this one's for you. I hate making comparison to other games, but it is pretty apt in this case. This is a roguelike deck builder after all. In the demo, there was a single character to play as with 3 preset playstyles given, as it keeps you on the second stage for the whole demo. However, it looks like there are going to be 3 playable characters in the full release, so there are possibly more playstyles defined within it. Visually, this game is going for that synthwave look and feel, and the same can be said about its audio. I really dig the vibes and the card art as well as the pixel animations during combat. A solid 4.5 out of 5 aesthetically. When it comes to the gameplay, it's obviously making some nods to Slay the Spire with its random events and card-based gameplay. There's definitely some potential for branching paths and ideas with this game, and hopefully we see some of that in the final release. What makes this game different from Spire is that positioning on the grid during a fight makes a difference. Being close to enemies allows you to get hit, while not being adjacent means you can't necessarily fight back depending on your cards. Being close to your opponent also can allow you to hit multiple enemies, which is card and hand dependent as well. Another difference between Nitro Kid and Spire that can make combat engaging is the ability to get out of rooms without clearing all enemies in a room. You just have to meet the floor clearing condition, which can range from just beating 3 enemies to killing an elite. Something I wish this had was a way to use keyboard shortcuts, as it would give more flexibility in looking at your cards, the map, and your abilities. If you couldn't tell by now, I really enjoyed this demo, and I don't think I've unlocked everything in this demo, as it seems you can get more upgrades and starting cards or abilities the more you play it. I give Nitro Kid a 4.5 out of 5 gameplay wise. Based on the store page, I'm still not exactly sure what the release date is for this game, but I'm looking forward to the full release. This is on my Steam wishlist. 4.5 Bruce Lee yells out of 5 overall for Nitro Kid. As with all the other games in this video, the Steam store page will be listed in the pinned comment. Last Vanguard is another Metroidvania. I think you could tell what genre of game has captured the hearts and minds of indie devs over the past 5+ years. What makes this one so interesting, aside from its focus on gunplay, is its use of hand-drawn animations. For the most part, this demo is set in what seems to be a sewer and has a very monotone color palette. But the player and enemies do stand out from the background because of their black borders and frame rates on some enemies. However, I think some animations, like the ledge hang animation on the player character, left a little to be desired because it felt like they disappeared into the ledges and were just standing on the thin air instead of hanging. This might just be a hitbox issue that will be fixed, but it did feel a little strange. Trailers and some of the GIFs on the Steam page do seem to show more areas and a little bit of variety in the full game's biomes. Visuals get a 3.5 out of 5. When I got the dash and double jump ability, I wasn't able to use the dash or in-place aiming for some reason until I unplugged and replugged in my Xbox controller. Wasn't exactly sure what happened there. Tying reloads to gaining energy notches from connecting hits with your whip, as well as healing, was interesting as it gives you a risk reward with doing more damage versus staying safe while in combat. Before realizing this, there were a couple moments where I couldn't kill a group of enemies since I went into the fight with no ammo and had no enemies to use my whip on, so I took a death, which was entirely my fault from not having familiarity with the game mechanics at the time. Something about the combat and movement felt like it was lacking. This could be because I was a little frustrated over not being able to use the dash for a large portion of the demo until I fixed the controller issue. Overall, I would give the gameplay a 3.5 out of 5. The demo says the full game will include non-linear exploration and many secrets, among other things, so hopefully this will scratch the Metroidvania itch for a few people. Still no word on this game's release date as yet based on the Steam page, but this is probably a good thing as hand-drawn frame-by-frame animation can take time to do. I think there's a lot left to be desired with this demo, and I hope the game delivers a good experience in the full release. Overall, I give this demo a 3.5 out of 5. Quetzal is a Latin American inspired precision platformer whose demo I played on my Twitch stream. If you want to catch a stream, be sure to check the Twitch link in the description and hit the follow and the bell so you don't miss a stream. Visually, this game is real clear on what you can land on and what you can pogo off of as well. I personally enjoy the game's art direction and art style. Also, the calming music in the background gives you a sense of calm that you might not have felt when going through the White Palace in Hollow Knight, making the movement and pogoing off of chainsaws rather calming. Visuals get a 4 out of 5 from me. Gameplay wise, I personally really enjoyed the movement and some of the precision in this platformer. There's a lot for me to like about how the movement in this game ties together with the obstacles. You can really feel the ramp up in difficulty as you start with normal jumps between platforms to bouncing off of projectiles and saw blades over liquid death pits. I highly recommend this demo if you like to have your platforming skills tested. I can only assume there are going to be more difficult platforming trials outside the demo, as there is a skill upgrade partway through the demo. The only thing I wish you could do was release out of shooting bullets whenever you want instead of working off the timer the game gives you for shooting projectiles. However, there will be plenty of secrets in the game, like the little birds you find and the secret hard platforming rooms at the end of the demo, which kept track of who cleared the room without taking damage. I'd give the gameplay in this demo a 4.5 out of 5. As of right now on the Steam page, there seems to be no assigned release date. This one is definitely near the top of my wish list, and I'm excited for the game's full release. I give this a solid 4.5 out of 5. Cult of the Lamb is the game everyone who's been paying attention to the indie game scene is hyped about, and for good reason. The game looks adorable and the trailer shows some great gameplay. I don't think you need to say too much when it comes to the game's visuals and audio. This game is super adorable and all the visual effects work amazingly together alongside the great music and sound effects for everything in this demo. Hopefully we'll see some adorable cultists as well as more from the Lamb from the full release. Aesthetics wise, this game is probably a 5 out of 5 in my eyes. Gameplay wise in this demo, I felt like there was a bit to be desired. I wish there was more of the combat to go play through in the demo. I personally wanted to see more of the game and its biomes and to fight more bosses, but unfortunately the demo ends after you beat the first boss. Additionally, I wanted to learn more about the cult follower system and the area between runs through the game, but because the demo ends so early, you don't get to see too much of it. Hopefully in the full release, everything is fully fleshed out. 4 out of 5 for gameplay. I just wish there was more of it in the demo. Overall, the lack of stuff to do in the demo left me a little worried, especially with the release date just around the corner on the 11th of August this year. However, knowing the pedigree of some of the featured games in Devolver Digital showcases and how some of the gameplay looked in the trailers, I can only assume that we're in for a good game. 4.5 out of 5 little lambs for this one. This is probably my standout of the bunch. The developers really tapped into the Far Eastern fantasy elements alongside the added sci-fi elements from the ancient alien race that seems to be present in this world. I absolutely loved looking through this demo, and the animations and what the Steam page says are hand-drawn sprite animations alongside some interesting comic-style panels and some cutscenes. I personally really like the art direction this game has, and I like the designs of some of the NPCs in the festival at the start. And let's not forget the sound design that helps enhance the combat alongside the visual cues on when you land and miss perfect deflects, as well as when you release your chi that you've accumulated after getting deflections. This game just looks and sounds amazing in this demo. I haven't talked too much about the UI in this demo review for most of the games, but the UI in this game looks super clean and really helps show some things in the combat, while also feeding into the sci-fi elements that are present in this game. Personally, I thought this game looked the most polished out of the bunch. It's a 5 out of 5 on the visuals for me. Gameplay wise, this game really stands out for me. I'm a big fan of Sekiro and its combat, And I think the deflection system in 9 Souls demo really gets you to not only go for the perfect deflections, but also gives you the option to dash through attacks you might not be prepared to perfectly deflect. If you don't get a perfect deflection, you can still land attacks aggressively to regain some of that your health you lost from an imperfect block or deflection. As a result, you can play both aggressive and passive depending on the context of your battles in this game. Movement wise, I think the game really feels good while running, jumping, and even while running. The trailers for this game also seem to show some more added movement skills such as grappling and mid-air perfect deflects. I also have to say there's a secret boss encounter that you can find in the main menu once you complete the demo, and it really tests your deflection skills and your willingness to be aggressive. There is also a leaderboard for this fight based on how fast you defeat this boss. I'm sure they'll most likely expand on this to turn it into some sort of boss rush in the full release. All in all, the demo really surprised me with its gameplay, and I have to say I'm excited to play more of it. 5 out of 5 in the gameplay department. This is another alongside Quetzal that's really pushed its way to the top of my wish list. I'm definitely super excited for this one. As of right now, the Steam page says it's slated to release in Q2 of 2023, so be sure to check out the demo in the meantime. Overall, I give this demo a 5 out of 5.